What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Pablo Ortega, and today we are going to unleash the power of Lightroom using one tool that'll help transform your images from this to this, and this to this, and this to this, and this to that. And you get the point, so let's just get it going. All right, so here we are in Lightroom, and today I want to talk about Radial Filters. It is a very simple tool that takes photos to the next level. It brings attention to certain focal points of your photo, and if you're not already familiar with it, I want to show you how easy it is to apply it. It can help really bring out the subject from your photo with a few simple steps. So I'm going to start out with a photo that I took in Peru of my buddy Jake. We are trekking this trail that's leading to Laguna Umantay. The main thing that I want to show in this photo is Jake. The rest of the image is great, but I really want to pull focus into him and make him the subject. I've got this amazing haze all around here that's going to look really great, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. I am going to use my preset called Run Wild. This is my baseline for something that I'm working on social media wise, and I will use this quite a bit. If you like this preset, go ahead and head to my website, pabloortegaphoto.com, and head to the free presets link where you can download this and a few other presets for free. But anyways, all my presets I set to not mess with the exposure. As you can tell, this one needs a little higher exposure. Not much. I'm actually happy there. I don't want to push it too much. I do want to bring my highlights down a little bit. That's already pulling focus away from the sky because, again, I want to bring focus here. So honestly, I love the tone, the depth, everything about this picture. It's kind of the look I'm going for. I'm going to raise my shadows just a tad bit there, just to give a little bit extra detail in all those dark spots. But here we go. I am going to go ahead and grab our radial filter here. I'm gonna start with the effect, show you a little bit of that. There's a ton of different options you can choose. Even if you choose one of these, you can still adjust all the rest of the stuff. I'm gonna start with exposure because that is the easiest way to use this filter. I go ahead and hit exposure. As you can tell, none of the settings here are adjusted except for the exposure, which is just a tad bit higher. And I'll show you why you don't want to go too extreme with this in a few moments. But first, let's apply our filter. Again, I want to bring all my focus to Jake here. Now, as you can see, I do have a vignette already, which already pulls focus to the center of the image. But now I want to isolate him a little bit more. I want to bring a little bit more details out of the blacks from him. So here is my radial filter right here. I'm going to start right there, just right in the middle. Number one tip that I can give you that I use is feather it all of the way. The feather controls how strong this effect is. So if I go down to 0, and I'm going to turn this up just so you can see how much the feather affects the parameters here. So that's feather completely at 0. Obviously not a good look. The higher we go, the more it smoothens out that exposure change. And that's why I want to go all the way to the top, because I want it to blend in to my image as much as possible. This is way too different than the rest of the image. I don't like the way that it focuses in. It's just way too powerful for what we're going for. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my exposure down all the way back to 0.22 where it was before, or at least somewhere close to that. Now I think this is a little too dark. If you look up here at the navigator, you can see that it still just looks like one dark plain image. So let's bring this up to +1. And now we're starting to bring our focus a lot closer to our subject here. I'm going to go a little bit higher. And 1.50, and I'm happy. I love the way this looks. I love how it brings out just this area of the picture. If I close out of this, you can see now that before, without this filter, there really isn't a subject. It's just one main image. And then I go ahead and bring that back, and I'm just loving the way that it brings that attention right to Jake, and it feathers out nicely so it still looks pretty natural. Obviously this isn't natural lighting, but you can manipulate the way that you apply this radial filter to make it look as natural as it can for your particular environment. So we're gonna move on. We're gonna do another photo. This is a picture of somebody who I thought was Jack Black when I was in Seattle. I took a ferry out to a nearby island. I'm gonna use Run Wild again for this one. Obviously super dark here, so we're gonna go ahead and bring our exposure up. And I want everything to be dark again, except for Mr. Jack Black here. By the way, that was not Jack Black. I did talk to him for a little bit, thinking the entire time he was Jack Black, and he wasn't even Jack Black. And that's what I do when I travel. I pretend I meet famous people. Let's get out of that. All right, so I've applied my exposure radial filter there. It's not doing much. I'm also going to crop this image a little bit because there's just way too much happening that I don't need in this image. Bring it down even more. I want the stair set. I want this window just for a little extra flair, but I want Mr. Pretend Black to be right in the center there. That's perfect. I'm happy with where that's at. I'm going to go back to my radial filter, and here I am selecting him. I'm going to go bigger. I'm going to feather this out completely, and I'm going to start bringing this up. Yeah, let's point some attention to him. Now, if it wasn't for the radial filter, you would probably think it's still Jack Black because it's dark and you can't really see what's going on or who that is. And you can join me in the confusion of thinking it's somebody that it's not. Boom. So I added that again. Now look at this. Look at this focus. Look at where your eyes are drawn when you open up this picture. They're drawn straight here. Now, I see that's a little too bright on the edges here. You can almost see the radial aspect of this filter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the radial filter here, and I'm just going to make it bigger. I'm going to make it bigger up here. I'm actually going to make it a little less on his lower body because I don't need that information. I really just want to get his face. And I'm happy right there. You know, I'm right under an extra one stop here in my exposure levels. I'm going to close out of this so you can see it. And I am much happier with that. This is what we started out with, and this is the image now. And you can't really tell that I've added an artificial light source, but I did, and it looks fairly natural. Anybody who's browsing through, looking at your social media or looking at this online, it would be very hard for them to tell a difference. And if you wanted to go one step further, just to really make sure that nobody can tell, you can just turn this into a portrait photo. And now the radial filter acts as a very heavy vignetting that is focused just on not Jack Black up here. And once again, before and after. Let's go to another portrait that I did for a maternity shoot. I'm going to use Run Wild for this one as well, I think. We'll see what that looks like. Good, I like it. It's exactly what I was going for. I really wanted a moody background, and I want it to be dark. I'm going to go down and I'm going to come up on my shadows just, okay, quite a bit actually. And I'm happy right there where that's at. I do want her to be a little less bright. I'm bringing down the highlights, and now I'm going to go to my radial filter. Like the other photos, I want to bring full attention to my subject here, so I add my radial filter there. This one I'm going to feather. I'm happy where this is right here. In regards to feathering, I am going to pump my exposure up now. Pump up the shadows. And as you can tell, it gives it that look like I've got a heavy flash pointed directly at her. I'm also going to bring the saturation up for this area. And this is what we've come up with. I'm going to go ahead and close out of the radial filter there and do a before and after. So as you can see here, applying the radial filter tool can be very easy, and if used correctly, you can get some great results. We were essentially adding an additional light source to our images, which was helping us highlight all the areas that we wanted to stand out in the image. Now you got to remember, this is an artificial light, so it doesn't look very natural if you push it too far, so less is definitely more when it comes to something like this. I know we mainly focused on the exposure slider, which helped us brighten things up, but you can also use it for the opposite effect as well. I also use it in my real estate and interior design editing workflows to match color temperatures. I'll sometimes walk into a room that has LEDs, fluorescents, and halogens, which all have different color temperatures, and I use that radial filter to kind of balance everything out within a room. Let me know if this information helped you, or if you can think of any scenarios that this tool might save or make your photos. If you liked what you saw in this video and you do want to see more editing techniques that I use on a daily basis for my jobs and my personal photos, don't forget to subscribe below. Thank you so much for hanging with me and watching this video, and until next time.